On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1974. We're going to be taking a look at Jeff Beck, and he's going to be performing She's a Woman. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, we're going to watch this the whole way through, and then we're just going to zoom in on sections and see what Jeff's getting up to on that fretboard. As always, there's going to be a link in the description below, so you guys can click on that if you want to watch it multiple times. But let's get Jeff up on screen and see how he gets on. And there we have it. As you can see, that is a sharp ending to the video. But the amount of technique and subtlety that we get in Jeff's playing here is just off the scale. A lot of people will know Jeff using that whammy bar on his Fender Strat, but here he's playing the Les Paul, which means that there's no whammy bar action going on here. It's all in the left hand, and the way that he's constantly changing the tone, the sound of the guitar throughout the performance is so impressive. He's also got the wah-wah pedal, which he's flicking on and then flicking off, and he actually starts without it on, but then gets into the section where he's got it totally closed rather than open, so it takes a lot of the top end of the sound out, and it gives it a much more mellow, covered sound. But then he opens up a little bit with his tone earlier on, and you can see he's adjusting his tone on that Les Paul all the time, rolling off a little bit of volume in order to take some of that distortion out of the sound, but then rolling in more volume to add a little bit more distortion. So it's subtlety across the board, not only with the tone, but just the playing and the technique, and the way that he occasionally will just throw in a pinched harmonic here and there. And considering that the tone is so clean, the harmonics are so subtle as well. The other thing about Jeff's playing and the way that he writes melodically is that he will repeat particular phrases. So you get that melody line that just pops up throughout a particular piece so that you've got a reference point, and then we come back and visit that. And we can get that in this performance the way that we start with a particular line and then we go full circle and end with the same line. It's really interesting musically, but when we're talking about technique, Jeff's control on the fretboard of his bends and his control of pitch is just off the charts. And he's also got that control of vibrato. So everything that we're hearing here is so conscious, so deliberate, but so well executed. So like I said at the beginning of the video, we're just going to jump into this and zoom in on particular sections rather than going through the whole thing, because we'll be here for years, but just to point out some of the technique that we've got going on with Jeff and that appreciation of melody and the lines that we get repeated throughout the performance. But let's jump into the beginning here. So even there, where we've got this, and it's... So we've got that little jump up. And we have a little bend, which is... And there's lots of bending going on here. I'm not going to be playing exactly the same thing. I haven't been sitting down working it all out. We're going to go through the basic feel and the techniques that are being used here. But that is a great example of the melody where we've got the... Just a little line that's repeated throughout the composition, but it's something that you can just latch onto. It is a hook in the composition that just gives you a place to come back to. It's like a home base, but let's keep on listening. And then we had exactly the same line again, slight variation, but you recognize it because it's just been repeated and we've heard it earlier. Like I said, it's just these little hooks that are thrown in there. So now we are getting into... Actually, the major comes in later. We might be playing it here on the 9th fret of that B string. We've got... And... Rather than going straight up to the note... That's what Jeff's doing. So, like I said, great control of the bends and the pitch in order to go... And... Get that pre-bend exactly where he wants it. And then... So a slight variation that second time just to keep the interest there. But you can hear as well, I mean, I've taken out all the top end from my guitar. You'll hear later on that he's got that closed wah-wah pedal switched on, but that's taking all the top end out of his tone, whereas here he's just played with his tone on the guitar in order to take that top end out of it. And to give you an example, when if I'm going, actually I'll keep it in the minor, so we're going where we are here. If I take out that top end, that's what it's going to sound like. If I now let that top end through, and if I, hopefully you can hear the difference between those lines that I've played with the brightness, which is going to be quite in your face and a little bit more offensive than if I change to the middle pickup and just roll off all of that tone. It should sound a lot softer. Kind of like that. Oh. And the slight variation that's in there as well. We haven't got a million notes a second here, but it's all about how the technique is applied to get the right feel. And of course the phrasing is something that, yeah, you can probably spend your whole life trying to get it down exactly the same, but you'll probably never quite get there. But let's get back into the next phrase. And we just had a little bit of harmonic action. Really subtle, but it's definitely in there. And it's that. It's that kind of thing. I'm just going to make my tone a little bit brighter so that you can hear that harmonic a little bit more clearly, like that. And it's that kind of thing. So just dotting in these harmonics and the pinched harmonics on the right hand, especially when you've got a cleaner tone, are going to be really difficult to find. You have to make sure that your technique's just top notch on the right hand in order to get them on these cleaner tones. And Jeff has certainly got a tone here that isn't bathed in distortion. That harmonic comes through, it will just totally change the sound of the line that he's playing, because now you're getting a different note because we're hearing the harmonic rather than the fretted note that we heard previously. But we'll listen on a little bit more. And here's the line that we had that I played to begin with, where we go to the major now rather than the minor. You'll hear how now, because we've gone to the major, it's going to sound a little bit happier, a little bit more optimistic than like that compared with. It's just that ever so slight change in mood, but it totally transforms the feel of what's being played here and the emotion and the story that the notes are telling. Like I said, it just sounds a little bit more optimistic to what we've just heard previously, and that's purely from changing down to the major. Like that. And then we had a little bit of, a few harmonics in there as well. Let me just take it back. Okay, we've got a little trill here, which is going to be on a 9th fret, and using the second finger to place in that hammer on and pull off effectively what's happening there. And just do that just multiple times quite quickly before they're getting into the... I think he hits an open... Yeah. I'm not sure whether he wanted to catch a harmonic, maybe on that last one. Something like that. But we're then going to be opening the taps on the tone a little bit. And now we're into our A shapes. So it means that we've had this, again, a little bit of an opening on the taps here, and we're going to be... So we're going to be in our kind of standard shape, pentatonic shape 1 here on our... in our A minor. So I'm not sure we go down yet. And here, it's going to be making use of all of the frets here on the guitar, literally none left, but a really A really strange line there. We get that little semitone slide into our shape, little bar onto that high E string, and then the bend up at the top. So now we're kind of opening the taps, we're speeding up a little bit. We've had the melody, and now we're going to be getting into a few notes that are a bit faster and a little bit more technique. I'm just going to probably go back to my middle pickup. It might be a bit bright for the tone, but let's listen on. And there's another pre-bend there. We get letting that bend come down, not hitting it on the way up, doing the pre-bend. And the really cool lines down here. And we had that. Okay, now, again, our bends here that are going on. We've got tone bends, so it means that we're bending the note effectively 2 frets higher. So we've also come out of our pentatonic shape 1 on that A string, just sliding down. And we've got our bends here. There's an occasional one of those really subtle harmonics, but, and that bend that's also thrown in there. And he's just kind of getting into it a little bit more here, just throwing caution to the wind. He's now into, you know, going to get into his playing again. And again, just playing down where we've been previously. And there's a little run there with an open A. I think I missed it. That's it. Okay, so it's that. It was 3rd fret, 5th fret, and then pull off 3rd down to the open A. Again, more technique here. Really cool sound getting to that open A string with that pull off. And that. These bends, and he actually goes all the way. Like that. Which again, had that whole tone higher. You've got to play guitar to really get an appreciation of the technique that's involved to get anywhere close to what Jeff is doing here. Just total control of the bends, the pitch, the expression of his playing. He's just making this look really easy, and it's anything but. And again there, when he's... So he's bending up. And he's not playing them together, he mutes in between. And... kind of like that. Again, loads of technique here in order to keep those notes clean. Ah, we missed a little transition there. You can see here that Jeff is about to put the pick in his mouth because he is now going to be playing with his thumb and 2nd finger maybe, or thumb and 1st finger. Yeah, so he got rid of the pick and played a little shape 1, 1st finger barred on the 5th fret, and then little pull off from the 8th. It looks like Jeff is playing 1st finger, maybe a little finger here. So 1st finger on the B string, little finger on the G, and we're getting those notes that are just a semitone apart. But because he's changed over to that 1st finger and thumb, it means that he can now play those notes straight after each other without having to go and kind of play it like that. So it means he can get those notes to ring out, and he just ascends all the way, but Again, a total change in the technique here, getting rid of the pick now, just going to his fingers, playing fingerstyle effectively, and I think he does get the pick back going later on, but he's now playing this all with his fingers. And there's loads in there. When we got up to, again, we're kind of in that shape one at the top here. I can't remember the lines that he played, but I just want to take it back to this line. Another little line in there, but just going over what I played there, the thing is you just try and figure out what he's doing. You totally forget that I'm supposed to be explaining or attempting to what's going on. We've got this little pull off from the little finger, first finger to open string, and there's a really quick open B string, but you don't really notice because it's so quick. Yeah, that. Like that. And then back into our shape. And that. Again, really cool lines. And this. And he starts doing all these bends, you know. Again, just throwing caution to the wind here. And that, yeah, just messing around with that shape. And the pick comes out again. And here now, back into... Okay, back into our shape one up at the top there. And... Again, a couple of bends there. Just getting up to pitch, applying the vibrato again at the top of the bend here. So, total control. And then... Just doing a classic kind of blues bend. Unison bends. Holding. And you could also hear how the vibrato on that was a little bit more... I'm not sure how to describe it. It's like a feeling. It's got more angst in there. There's a bit more anxiety in that kind of vibrato. So it's all in expression. This is the thing about getting the guitar to sing, having the technique and the ability to do that. It means that when you're watching great players, they can make the same note sound different depending on how they're applying their techniques, such as vibrato, to make something sound a little bit more like that, a little bit more angsty. There's more anxiety in the playing or in the sound. That's what's being communicated. So, I mean, when you're watching a guy like Jeff Beck, he just does this all the time. There's just such subtlety and change of expression throughout his playing. And there we had it again, back into the and actually just holding on that. Letting it ring out. And then we had these, that might have been a pre-bend. Kind of like that. Oh, a little slide into that. Again, slight variation there. Kind of like that. Again, it's going to be a case of, I'll take off all that. It sounds like, yeah, we have now gone to the wah-wah pedal, which is in its closed position, so you lose all of that top end, but let's get back into it. And there we have it, just a little run down. It might be the fact that he's actually using his second finger and this little vibrato that he gives on this C on our A string, he's actually doing that in time. I mean, sometimes he's kind of just applying a slightly faster vibrato, but he then just gets into that groove of that. Kind of like that. And you kind of get that groove in there. There's a lot of bounce to the sound. And there you could hear the wah-wah when he went up. He opened up the wah-wah pedal in order to get that wah-wah sound, to get the guitar to sound like it's talking. He's actually playing with that wah-wah a lot more now. And then you notice at the end, I mentioned just playing the same as we get at the beginning. Just to give that line at the end, we had the... kind of like that. We had some hammer-ons, pull-offs there, into the... big bend into our... first finger, just bar that minor pentatonic shape in A minor, and slide it down. But throughout this, there is so much technique in there. Like I said, we're just dipping into this and zooming in on tiny sections. If you were to try and break this all down and explain it all and go into the different levels of subtlety we've got going on, even breaking down or attempting to the change in tone. Because you could spend a video just doing that, not looking at any playing on the guitar, but just analysing what Jeff's doing on that Les Paul, rolling off some of the volume to get rid of the distortion, rolling off some of the top end, engaging that wah-wah pedal but keeping it closed. But thank you guys for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!